Next, we're ready to actually run the Bootcamp Assistant and partition our hard drive ready for the Windows installation. There are really two main portions to this. There's the assistant that you run to get the installation going, and then there's the drivers that you install on the Windows side once you've actually got that operating system up and running. The first thing I should talk about though is how to get the assistant running, and more importantly to try and make sure that your operating system on the Mac side is up to date. And as of recording this video, the latest version of OS X is Mavericks, and that's a free installation. It's a free upgrade, so I would recommend doing that so that everything looks the same and that you're running the latest version of Bootcamp. So what I'm going to do is go to my Applications folder again, look in Utilities, and you will see the Bootcamp Assistant there that's ready to run. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And what this does is it's just a jump start. It kickstarts the Windows installation process and gets your hard drive set up and ready to go. So you can click on Continue and you'll be presented with some options here. Now, the appearance of this screen is going to vary depending on the age of your machine. So I'm running an older machine, as I said, and so I have to install from a DVD. If you're running a newer machine, a newer Mac that doesn't have an optical drive, then obviously you can't use a disk to do the installation. Instead, what you'll do is you'll refer to the ISO file that you downloaded with your Windows installation, and when you run the Bootcamp Assistant, you'll have a different option that shows up here that says you can use a flash drive, and it'll take you through the steps to copy this ISO and other files to your flash drive so you can install from there. Me though, I'm installing from my DVD, so what I'm going to do is actually leave these two checked here. It says it is going to try and download the latest support software from Apple and install Windows 7. So what does that mean, the latest support software? Well, if we come back to that website we looked at earlier, we talked about the different versions of Bootcamp depending on your machine and the version of Windows that you want to install. I'm installing Windows 7 64-bit, and if I come back down here, you'll see that I'm installing version, or I'm going to install version 4 of Bootcamp. That's the slightly older version. Now what the assistant attempts to do when you actually start running this Bootcamp installer is it tries to download that version 4 of the Bootcamp software, and it tries to get those drivers ready so when you're on the Windows side you can get everything set up and good to go. It tries to do this automatically, and it gives you the option to do this if you want. What it actually does is downloads the Bootcamp drivers and wants to put it on a USB thumb drive. So what I've actually got here, if I bring up my disk utility, is I've got an 8 gig thumb drive, and I'm going to format this to the FAT partition, or the FAT file system, so that I can actually get those drivers installed on there. It has to be MS-DOS FAT32. So I'm going to click on my USB drive, click on Erase, make sure I've got the format set to MS-DOS FAT, and then I'm going to just call this something like Install, and click on Erase. And it'll happen very, very quickly. Shouldn't take any time at all. Make sure you've backed up your files before you erase the disk though. So once you've done that and plugged it in, you'll see it get mounted on your desktop, and here it is for me, Install. And we can try and let Bootcamp download those drivers for us, but to be honest with you, it doesn't always work. So I'll try and demo what happens if you let it do its thing, and then we'll see what happens. So I'm just going to click on Continue, and it says Destination Disk. Where do you want to put the support software, that version 4 of Bootcamp? I select the Install drive that I just formatted, click on Continue, and now it tries to download the Windows support software. Again, those are those Bootcamp drivers that are needed to get the Mac hardware to work under a Windows operating system environment. So it gives me a warning, and it says this machine only supports Windows 7. We verified that on the website earlier on, so I'm just going to click Continue. Okay, so this is what typically happens when you try and use this option. Sometimes it works, Honestly, 99% of the time it doesn't work for me. You get this error saying, can't install the software, it's not currently available from the update server. And at this point, people get incredibly worried and think they can't do it. But this is a perfect opportunity for me to show you the workaround to get this to work. So I'm going to click OK, and the Bootcamp Assistant takes me back to screen 1. And so all I'm going to do is not worry about my flash drive. In fact, I'm going to just eject this, take it out of the machine, and I'm going to deselect this option to download the support software. And what we'll do is we'll download it manually once we've got Windows installed. So I'm going to leave Windows, install Windows 7 checked, make sure I've got my DVD in the drive, and just click continue. And this is the part where we start to talk about partitioning your hard drive. So the Mac operating system uses the Mac file system, and Windows, of course, needs a different file system. It needs the NTFS file system to run. So you have to partition your hard drive in half. Essentially, you put the Mac operating system on one side, and you put the Windows operating system on the other side. So by default, Windows leaves around about 20 gigs for itself. And honestly, that's not going to be enough in this day and age, especially if you plan to start installing software. So what I would recommend you do is actually drag and resize this. And honestly, I would recommend that you give yourself at least 50 gigs for the installation if you can, at the bare minimum. In this case, what I'm going to do is take it all the way up to around about 100 gigs, because I plan to install some more software on here later. At this point, I just click on install, and the partitioning process begins. Next, we're ready to begin the actual Windows installation process, and we'll cover that in the next video.